What's up, everybody? I'm Hubert. I'm here with my co-host Ralph, co-author of Streaming Database, and two of the founders of Timeplus. Ting, CEO.
Hey,
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Joe, head of product.
Yeah.
Really excited. Thank you so much. I'm doing an audio podcast. Jove is doing a video podcast. So lots of A&D, audio visual going on
And the
here.
streaming, right?
Streaming. And we're in a streaming convention.
Yeah.
We're streaming right now.
Maybe the biggest streaming party in the world.
Yeah. If we got to stream, we got to do it here.
Yeah.
Last week I saw the announcement. I don't want to take your thunder. I'd love for you guys to talk about what you guys announced last week and how you got to there and everything else.
Yeah, thank you. The last week we pretty much so excited to announce the open source, our core engine. So it's kind of it was a decision actually we made actually 2 years ago when we started the whole company. We definitely we're a developer, right? So we're actually want to build by developer, we want to contribute to the developer community. So, why we announce the open source right now? Because we really want to focus on building engine first, and also to demonstrate it's a very mission critical use case on top of the streaming data. So I think now is a pretty good moment. We build the infrastructure, build a community, and open source for the whole world. Yeah, we love it.
Great. Is the open source version similar or exactly the same as the SaaS version of Timeplus?
Yeah, for the SaaS version, the goal is to make the process as easy as possible, right? You sign up using your Google or Microsoft SSO. You don't worry about credit card information. We have a nice Kubernetes-based deployment. We have all those nice UI charts and a few more sorts and things. So that part is the main theme for the SaaS part is really about usability, right? On the open source side, which is we call Proton, which is open source under Apache License 2, we provide the Docker image. We can also provide other with different deployment. And the goal is that people can spin up this very easily on their laptop. We provide a secure as a primary interface. There's no web UI. And we can read data from Kafka. We can write data to Kafka. But if you want to collect data from other systems, you might have to use our cloud version. But it is really try to collect more feedback from the developers. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually tried it right after you guys announced. I tried it myself. Yeah, I had to. And you're absolutely right. It was easy to download. It didn't take forever. When you download some Docker Compose files, you're sitting there for minutes downloading all the images and so on. This one didn't take that long at all, and I was able to run pretty easily. And it's amazing that you're able to compact so much in such a little package. Right. It's just very small.
It's all in one. So it's all the components like the ClickHouse version and your log is all in one.
It's one
Docker
binary.
image.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
one binary.
Yeah. So we will provide maybe if you run a certain Linux version, we can even provide more than just stock image. If you really want that binary, we can give that to you, right? And that binary essentially is a combination of our kind of streaming processor, something similar to Flink. And also we have our own streaming storage, we have our historical storage, all in one single binary. And the Docker image just makes it a little bit easier for those default configuration files or those other license files, stuff like that. So, but yeah, using single binary is certainly doable. And if you prefer microservice, then we can configure that system in different roles. But you don't have to start from microservice as your first step. Just want something run quickly on your laptop. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Hubert, you asked that what's the difference. I think that for the core engine, exactly the same. So I think that hopefully the community can try and see what happens. It's a lot of the comprehensive streaming functionality, very powerful, and also, as you know, we connected the historical store as a ClickHouse. It's just one single binary. So the very simplified streaming cycle. You guys don't care about. You don't have to manage the complexity between the streaming and the historic, backfill, a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah, so lately, and Ralph and I have been talking about this a lot lately. The term streaming databases are it's too confusing for people to understand, right? And they don't know how to kind of conceptualize how to use it and where and why for it. Um, and the way I think about it, coming from like Confluent and coming to the streaming, there's always been this contention between streaming and batching, right? In my world, right?
yeah.
Why not batch? I could do everything in batch. Just batching is so much easier. Streaming is too hard. Streaming gives you all this other stuff too, but they're always at one another. Streaming databases actually, there are two terms that bring a technology together. Streaming is real time. Database is at rest, right? Streaming database is a conversion of both real time and batch processing, right? And I think that's really hard for people to understand the advantage. Like when we're writing our book, the idea of being the push and pull queries, like pushing is your stream processing, your materialized view. Pull is your queries that you're pulling from that state store, right? And but where usually like the most popular technologies today, those are two different systems, right? Where streaming databases actually pull them together and provide all that capability without having the overhead of additional systems and architecture, right? How do you have any sense of like how much cost somebody could save by reducing such a large infrastructure, or is that something that you haven't really thought about yet?
Yeah, first of all, I really love this kind of interpretation for streaming and a database. That's a naturally. So we at the Timeplus, the core team, we're pretty much like a practitioner. We're actually trying to solve the problem before we like innovate some maybe new category, new term. So, but you guys are, I think, pretty like a pioneer for this kind of thing, like streaming database.
Yeah.
So, because we fundamentally think is when we do a lot of streaming processing and analytics, you have to connect kind of historical data at the same time, right? So it's a naturally for foundation for all the analytics. So that's and also streaming, streaming, we handle the change, handle the delta, the historical, also some baseline. And for a lot of analytic, they have to compare both, right? So otherwise, the change, what that mean, right? So that's a philosophy, I think pretty much like we are a lot of alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. In the book, you reference Martin Kleppmann a lot. A lot. We have quotes.
Yeah.
We were always referring to him. Why do we do that, right? Obviously, he kind of coined the idea of like turning the database inside out, right? He took parts of the database that were naturally streaming, exposed them, and made them scalable and so on, right?
Yeah.
And so now we have like companies like Flink and other technology like KSQLDB.
Yeah.
And then you have like your OLAP systems, your databases that are serving this data through through a database API, right? Rows and columns and SQL statements. We actually are the converse. We keep talking about this, but we are bringing those components back into the database. Where Kleppmann wanted to bring them out and scale them individually, we're bringing it all back in.
Yeah.
Into
Exactly.
the database and calling it streaming database. The Feldra people, a lot of academics in there, talked about the ideas that all databases are streaming databases. You just need to make them streaming.
Exactly. I love that quote.
It is a very nice quote. It was very compelling to me.
Yeah. I just want to add some comments. Our the early like a customer when they use some streaming analytic or they really love the streaming user experience. They're like they can maybe do some like a live query, continuously monitor the whole thing. They don't have to like a batch mode, like the 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just like a pull again and again. And so people love it, And also back to your question, and the cost underneath, streaming definitely is much lot of benefit. When we handle only when data get a change, we handle the change, right? We don't have like I say just like 5 minutes do the same thing again when even no data change, right? So
Right.
so the cost definitely is dramatically we can control the cost. And also, as you mentioned, the historic, we have the database, but we manage it as one single binary. We definitely just like it. Customer don't have to, build so many different systems like streaming processing, database, or historical, and the unification. If they build it like piece by piece, I think we almost like we have huge benefit like for TCO part. Yes.
So, if we could claim that technically all databases can be made into a streaming database, the term streaming database would be just redundant. You would get to be a database company.
Hopefully one day.
Yeah, hopefully one day. When customers come to you or prospects or anybody that's interested come to you, they're probably not thinking database first
Right.
when they come to you. They're thinking about streaming first, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the hard part, is how do you bring streaming people to the database? But conversely, how do you bring database people to streaming, which I think is a more compelling, interesting idea. It's really hard to get batch oriented or people in that realm, in that domain, to adopt streaming. And I honestly believe, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think it's also like very complicated to really find your how to address the market basically, because you've got these streaming people, like the stream processing gurus, like using Flink for 10 years now. So they would probably be thinking, streaming database, that's not for me. Maybe it's too much database.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you have these database people. I mean, a much broader market actually, but they are afraid of streaming. So it's very hard to kind of
Got it.
make the entrance barrier low for both parties, both sides. I
Yeah.
think.
It's I think that So yes, for the streaming, I think that depend on the, I see a little bit like this kind of the challenge when you talk about different, the community or maybe customer, when like for streaming the industry, so probably say we have to say we connect to like a database concept because streaming alone you have to it's really like hard to analyze the the use case of the question. But for database guy, I think database now is pretty much adopt a lot of streaming concept right now. You see the MongoDB or a lot of the Snowflake, Databricks that also embrace the streaming to handle like the Kafka data, append. So but eventually when we talk to the customer, I hopefully don't want to talk about terminology. Say, I want to solve the real-time problem. Like even for trading, analytic, or risk compliance, or like fleet management. I think that one the customer only care about how to get down, right?
Yeah.
So we back to the problem. So that's determining a lot of the scenario, the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way I've used the UI on the cloud, and I love the way it is kind of put together, the user experience, and I love also how simple the tool is when you download it and run it local. Like I like a shell. I like the idea of a shell and seeing my show tables or -n or /n. I see my table. I want something like that, and it makes things really easy to work with data, whether it's be moving or not moving, right? I wanted to get back to like Timeplus itself. Number one, where does the name come from? Explain to me where time and the plus really come from. What that name?
To be honest.
No, I mean, I guess Tim, you choose the name. Again, it's not really a secret. That is, Tim and I spent a long time in Splunk, and there's a news last week regarding this acquisition. But when we built this new project, really want to solve some very hard problem when we're facing in Splunk. Right? People have a lot of data in there. There's a security. There's some IT metrics. And they want to understanding like whether they are being attacked, whether the server is overloaded or idle, But even Splunk is doing great job. But if you want those real-time alerts, we are talking about like per minute. It's still very, very expensive, right? So we had an attempt in Splunk to try to leverage like Flink, leverage Kafka to build a microservice in a quantitative way. It is doable, but again, there's too many moving parts. So we want to take a fresh take to see what can we build a new database with time as our first citizen. Every single piece of data in Timeplus or in the database need to have a time step. So we know whether it's a late event, whether it can be kind of removed if it's not so low, high value. So we really want to have a database with time. So it's kind of like 10 plus database. But of course, we do more than database. We have other stuff like data lineage. We have this exploration, charting, machine
I like
learning.
the lineage. It's really nice. It's really hard to do lineage on streaming. So unless you have, Ralph, you have any other questions? I have one last question. Last night I met your chief growth officer. I forget his name. What was it?
Michael Benjamin.
Yeah, Bender. Hiring a growth officer like that means something, right? We're going to expect some great things from you in the future, right? Is what I'm hearing. What can we expect from you guys in the near future?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very, we're lucky to have the Michael Benjamin, who just joined us as a chief growth officer. Honestly, it's just like really like from the buy direction, you know. And the first of all, we need to like focus on the very core use case to, you know, to adopt the Timeplus. We particularly care about mission critical the industry. So it's no doubt like a financial service, a lot of trading stuff. So we got a lot of the early customer like that. So Michael is very huge, like more than like 60 years experience. Back to his experience in streaming base, like typical streaming base, and also like a KDB or KX. So it's a fantastic experience to working for streaming industry and also for financial service, even for IoT. But on the other hand, actually, Michael, you know, we got like when we published the product like a beta, yeah, he's actually to sign up the beta program to evaluate the product for a couple of months, and he just realized that it's a fantastic, it's a new, you know, revolution product. It's literally a lot of opportunity to change the industry. So he's a big fan for the product. So that's something, yeah, it's a wide direction. You know, finally we're lucky to have him on board.
Joe, Ting, super appreciative of your talking to us, and of course, Ralph, thank you for being here as well. Till next time, and maybe we'll bring coffee next time, right?
Yeah, of course. And yeah, it's just a party time. So
Party time.
You hear the background music, but this time we found a chill place.
Oh, cool.
With coffee or beer.
And looking for the new book.
Yeah. Next year should be good.
Yeah.